Good morning, it's April 15th, Wednesday, and we're going to look at Sona Nanotech. And I actually just made this video and I realized that the sound wasn't even on, so maybe it'll be a little bit more clear and concise this time going through. So, checking this out, looks like we have a current price of $1.69, and just looking at some of the technicals here, we can see that the company is worth $80 million. So theoretically right now, for this company to be, let's say, valued at a price of 2 times its worth, let's say 330 or something, 340, we would have to have this become 160 million. So when we're looking at the market cap, that's all we're really suspecting. Like, how much money has to flow into this company for it to double in price? Because realistically, that's what we're looking at, right? The price. We're not looking at this for other reasons. What else can we say here? I mean, this is just a nice little summary here. 52-week high, all that kind of stuff. And looking at this a little bit, I had no idea what the heck this was. But it's for coronavirus test kits. And I think that that's what we would suspect that the recent surge in price action has been due to. So this company is not just only, let's just pull up the website. This company is not only involved with, let's say, coronavirus per se, but it's just involved with actually medical testing for the most part. But not just medical testing, you could say military testing. So we got drug abuse, so drug testing, military testing, animal testing, environmental testing, medical diagnostic. I mean, we could test for food impurities, all that kind of stuff. So they're basically predicated on this lateral flow test. And it works quick and easy. So they're saying that it basically can negate a lot of this process, right? So the process of going to the doctor, seeing the clinic, and getting the lab results, and doing the other way of doing it, the ELISA test. So on here, the lateral flow test, we can see here, we get the sample, whether that's your saliva or that's let's say in pregnancy, that might be down there, and then it mixes through a composition of freeze-dried salt sugar matrix, and then it basically has been laced with these gold nanoparticulates that Sona Nanotech makes. They make the gold nanoparticulates that bind to what they're testing for, so that they can give a color indication if you're testing positive. Just in a short summary, I mean, obviously I didn't explain that in biochemical ways, but there looks to be like a couple different types of them, and more or less that's what's going on. The gold itself is going to appear red, so that's why this will test red. So these different gold nanoparticulates, so right here they say the red is most commonly used. So it's a way that they can basically attach these gold nanoparticles onto, let's say, your let's say if it's a bacteria, it would be to your antibodies, the signal that you're having an immune response to it, and then they could say that from that they could use deductive reasoning and say that you probably have the virus, right? And a lot of times it's one of the things that I was a little bit suspecting of is just like the possibility for false positives. So serological tests are susceptible to producing false positive and false negatives. I don't know if this is just let's shit on the competition type of thing. So this one is trying to say that there won't be any false positives, allowing for clear and direct interpretation. So if that was truly the case, like, that would be a great thing, because it's looking like now, like, I've seen some stuff, and don't say that this is perfect. They're saying like there's as high as like a 80% false positive rate of the COVID testing right now. So that's just stupid, because you could flip a coin and make a better prediction. And I've also seen stuff that if you've gotten the previous flu vaccine, that you could test positive using, let's say, this result. So not very effective. I mean, not very applicable. Pretty stupid, right? I mean, one of the things is that we all have the coronavirus in us. It's just basically the common cold. Now, this 19 is a denomination of the specific viral mutation that, that they supposedly said came from, Wuhan. Regardless of the legitimacy of any of that information that they're telling us, I would suspect that testing is not going to go away completely at any point, and since they have a diverse application, this could be a company that could stay around for a while. And if they had an easy test that you didn't have to like get injected with something, or they didn't have to take your blood, if it was just like you spit on this lateral flow test, I think a lot more people would be open to that, knowing that they're not gonna, you know, theoretically, or they could just spit on it, or they didn't have to really, you know, have any like paranoia that, you know, the tests could potentially give them the virus itself. So in that sense, I mean, there could be some pretty good future application of this, especially, let's say, if we could be knowledgeable of this company before the next pandemic, because there may be a little bit of we might have already lost, the train might have already left on this one, but now that we've looked at some of that, we're going to take a look at just the chart here, and this chart's not going to be as applicable as some of the ones that I've looked at, because there's just no data here, so it's just so new, and I didn't draw too much here after last time, but on this monthly sense, like, what can we even do here? There's not much to work with, to be honest, and as far as a technical analysis standpoint, but you could say that we're moving along this trend line right now, but that's not too good for determining when you should, you know, come and go. But basically, this company was open in late 2018, kind of hovered between 35 cents and 19 cents, and then start coming down, start kind of falling through. Looked like it was just going to kind of roll over here. And lo and behold, the coronavirus came, and this company just basically had an angel come from heaven and save it. So then you see an astronomical gain here, like a literal astronomical gain. If you looked at the top of 23,000%, like, that's unbelievable. You could have seen this thing dropped to 1 cent. 1 cent. So someone made like astronomical amounts of money here. I'm hoping you did, brother. If you got in down here, like, wow. You know, I mean, this one is, I would say that if you were aware of the Sona Nanotech, you did a very good job of sniffing out the trend to come. Now, let's say, how much has this moved up? How much has this moved up in sense of its potential of moving up? I don't know. And that's something that, well, it's scary to enter into these positions at this point, but you never really know how far this could run either. But like for it to touch 1 cent and go all the way up to $2.20, like, it just makes sense for me that we should be expecting some type of pullback right here before we have any possibility of going up. I mean, realistically, we could continue up even further. And I don't want to be that person telling you to, you know, sell out of an asset that's done very, very well. But I would just be mindful of a few things. And the one thing that I think everyone needs to know is that there's just a typical Wall Street market cycle. And knowing this, you should be, you should always have this in the back of your mind. And there's two different ways that these market cycles can play out. Shit, how many market cycles I got? What the fuck is going on? So I don't know what happened there, but I seem to lose everything there. My apologies. Just get that back. All I was trying to do is something like this. I'm gonna start freaking the hell out. But, oh man. Okay, sorry. What I really wanted to say is that to look at this in comparison, and not that we could really compare this directly, but I think that most people haven't seen, let's just say, this picture. And, well, they don't want me to look at it either. Get the fuck out of here. So we're just going to have to look at it in this sense here. But basically, when we have these rallies up, these optimistic feelings, belief, we get the thrill, we get the euphoria, and then eventually we have the market correction, right? So during these whole runs, we have the correction, and then we go through this period of contraction and expansion. And if you watch me on these channels a lot, you'll see me drawing a lot of cups. I'll say, look at, there's a cup here, and there's a cup there. And basically, stocks and the stock charts are all like Russian dolls, in the sense that there's little versions within bigger versions. So in that sense, a lot of times I'll bring up a little bit of just basic Elliott wave theory, and doing that in a typical bull run. So when we're coming up right here, we usually have a cycle of 5 waves up, and then an ABC correction back down, and this is this Elliott wave theory. And then if we're going to continue back up, we'll have another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pattern. And I just ran out of room. That's not proportionate. But what that typically can create is a cup right here. You know, so this cup is basically this middle zone right there. And how long these time frames happen, there's a lot of variability, but that would be just like a verbatim skeleton of what these charts are actually based off of, right? So they don't predict everything, but looking at this, I mean, you can clearly see like an A, B, a huge C right there, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, so it's just kind of good to keep that in the back of your head that typically they move in wave structures, and that's just if it's going to be a good company and move into bullish scenario. If a company sucks, it can actually it can just die off. So here we could have a run up, and then this company is just shit, and then it never actually does form another cup, and it never really does have a next bull run. So that's the possibility for charts as well. So I think that's worth being aware of. And yeah, when you look at this stuff, it's trading is usually all about emotion. So right here's another good one, just an emoji. So optimism, excitement, thrill, euphoria, complacency, like, oh, I'm fine here. And then, oh shit, anxiety, denial, fear, panic, anger, depression, hope, relief, optimism. Yeah, so right in here at the bottom of the cups is usually when you have the most potential for gain. So looking at something like right here, with no real data, no history, it's really tough for me to get into something when it's so, extended here, and people that have gained 20,000%, are probably feeling euphoric, man. They're fucking right. They're feeling thrill, excitement, euphoria. So for me, if I was invested in this and I was so lucky to sniff this out, I would have probably, if I got in here, I might have just like kept on raising the roof. I mean, from 1 cent to 3 cents, you could have just said, hey, I'll take my 3x. And then once you got up here, you could have said, hey, I'll take my 10x. And then once you get up here, you could keep on raising your stop limit, so to speak. And that's not a very specific way of looking at it, because I'm looking at a week sense and we have no data. So we'd probably want to zoom it into something like a 3 hour and to say, hey, where is actual price action happening here? But if you're already in here, I mean, you can see what I'm saying. Like, you can raise up where you would want to say, I don't want to see this price go below this, just to make sure that you actually lock in some of your gains and you don't have like this whole fucking thing come and crash down on you. Because to see this amount of price action go up in this amount of time is crazy. I mean, and it's just crazy to think how far this actually could go too. But there's a lot of risk right now. This is, I mean, with it that high, there's a lot of risk, in my opinion. And each time you zoom it in a little bit, you can probably draw a narrower trend line and say, hey, where is this thing going? Because when you change the time frame, it changes the perspective of what's happening here. So all these arrows, are only as applicable as the time frame you're looking at. But right now, if you got in, it depends when you get in always with what you should do. But the number one thing with anything, I think I have it written down here, is risk management. So if you want to be good at trading, You want to be good at poker, you want to be good at anything involving money, it's all about how much you don't lose. It's not how much you gain, it's about how much you don't lose. So it doesn't matter if you really gain 20,000% here. If you just ride it down and you're complacent, and you ride this back down and lose it all, right? So what you have to be is great at risk management, and that comes from actually developing a strategy. So if you looked at this and said, hey, I see this at 35 cents here, I seen that we've somewhat formed maybe like a cup, maybe we had a little fake out here, like we had a little bear flag, not a bear flag, but a little we had a sell-off here just to get everyone the hell out, which is funny, but that's usually what happens right before the bull market starts. We have a little drop in price, and then we'll shoot up just to shake out a bunch of weak hands. So you could have looked at this and said, hey, once we break this price, we're going to be shooting into unseen territory here, and we have no resistance up in here. So now we're kind of just shooting up, looking at new price discovery. And at this point, if you got in here, you could have just waited for that to come up and form a higher high and then a higher low. You could have said, hey, this is my new stop loss right there. We're going to continue to rise this up. And now we're doing the same thing. We're created a higher high right here. And now if we can create a higher low, we could theoretically, set our next stop loss, let's say like so, and then just keep on riding up these higher highs and higher lows and protecting yourself from losing too much potential, from what you made already. And for me, let's say I wanted to get into something like this, which I typically wouldn't because I suspect it's somewhere along this phase. I'd probably be looking for a zone right at the top here where it already is. But like I said, it's pretty tough to play this right now after you've seen it go up 20,000%. It'd be very, very risky in my sense. But you never know how far it could go. So if this theoretically, let's say, went up and established, we say we're challenging here and we've seen some good price action bars, there may be an opportunity to do like a risk to reward type of thing here. But for those reasons that I said already, the time to get in on this was probably down here, hey? And this chewed all the way up, and it's got 20,000% gain in the last 3 or 4 months. So I mean, it's probably quite logical to expect some type of pullback, but for me, yeah, it's too. I'd want to see this, let's say, form a little cup like so, and then have a COVID 2020, or a COVID whatever, and then you'd be like, shit, man, this thing's gonna run like crazy. So I'm gonna keep this one in my little watch list here, not in my watch list, but I'm just gonna really remember this one because it had a great surge here. We've had a really good move. It's tough to know how much further this could move up. And well, just even since I'm doing the video, it's already jumped back up to 190 here. So looking at some of that application, it could be really good. I mean, there's just some hesitancy for me jumping in at this time frame to see it just go up so much. And have no action here. I mean, it's just too tough to, you don't want to FOMO out, right? I mean, this is a good example of giving me a feeling of FOMO. And that's just the fear of missing out. And that's where everyone buys in, hey? I mean, a lot of times you can look at these things and you can say, you can usually say like, if we just take a little more drawn out here, we can usually say, the smart money gets in here. Smart money gets in here. The institutions get in here. And then the public gets in here, hey? And who's selling to them? The smart money and the institutions, the celebrities, and then the public gets in here. And then we all get sold off of, right? We all start, these people start selling to us at these prices, and then it rolls over and it just crashes down. So I don't know what stage this is theoretically in, but I would be a little bit suspicious that moved parabolic here. And the thing is, you never really know how much this euphoria could take this thing. Okay, so I guess I'll probably be watching this in sense if it breaks out into all-time highs. That'd be an interesting thing. But besides that, I'd probably look at this at a shorter time frame. And if you got in earlier, I'd probably just try to start securing profits here. You know, just securing profits to make sure that you're not going to lose your gains. But yeah, that's what I'll do for this one. So hopefully you found it educational. And yeah, we'll go do the next one. Okay. All right.